Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tap Into the Truth. This is your host, Tim Tapp, coming to you live from historic and scenic Roane County, Tennessee. For everybody who's listening in East Tennessee, I hope you're managing to stay out of the very soggy weather out there. Let's go ahead and get started. Today's title, Debt Limit and New Spending, is of course in reference to today's surprise press conference that the occupier gave, which we'll get into that as we proceed, but let's begin with some lighter news items. Starting with the fact that, did you know citizens can file treason complaints against Barack Obama? Not only can they, but it's already been going on, and I'll go you one further. Navy veteran Walter Fitzpatrick III has offered assistance to anyone else who wants to do the same thing. Contact him through his website, and he's willing to walk you through it. Fitzpatrick is hoping that hundreds or even thousands of citizens will take him up on his offer of assistance. He says that any citizen can file a criminal complaint to the sitting grand jury in their locality or municipality, and hundreds of citizens taking this action would serve as a major wake-up call to our politicians in Washington. Fitzpatrick also added that time is now very limited, and this appears to be the last non-violent option which may be available to us. Well, that may very well be the fact, and it's good to see that people are still looking for a non-violent option, especially given some of the rhetoric from extreme far-left folks like good old Louis Farrakhan, who's claiming that we're setting up for a race war. In fact, he even stated that Django Unchained would be a good lesson to pay attention to and should help motivate folks. How does a guy get to be a leader of men by preaching nothing but violence? I don't know. On the topic of the left, though, while we have some folks that are trying to urge people to file treason complaints, the folks on the left seem to think that Obama should be part of Mount Rushmore. In fact, Al Sharpton was part of a segment concerning a recent National Journal article which analyzed President Obama's chances of attracting a coveted spot on Mount Rushmore. This was aired last Friday on MSNBC, of course. Teddy Roosevelt's presence on the landmark garnered particular attention from Sharpton, who expressed his opinion that Roosevelt's thin resume as a transformative president strengthens the case for Obama to be included. Abby Huntsman, also on the panel discussing this, said that you look at Reagan. He ended the Cold War. I think they have to have a legacy that changed America. Obama was the first black president. That is something that will always be remembered. Al Sharpton also chimed in at this point, and he stopped 2 wars, and the whole question of finance reform on Wall Street and health care. I mean, he's done some concrete things. Again, the reason I raised Teddy Roosevelt is that a lot of people could say that Teddy Roosevelt was more of a character than a transformative president. I can name literally things that President Obama has done. Now, I'm going to say that if Teddy Roosevelt is the measure, I think it strengthens the case for President Obama. Well, first of all, it's downright asinine at this point for anybody to think that we should be adding any more faces to Mount Rushmore. If you want to question whether or not Teddy Roosevelt belonged there, fine, go ahead and question it. There's no surprise that anyone on the left, especially anybody who has anything to do with MSNBC, would have any question towards a national monument that represents past greatness of this nation. But let's take a look again. What's your points here, Al? I mean, come on, Mr. Sharpton. He stopped 2 wars. Actually, all he's done is wind down, and there's still fighting going on in both cases, just with a lot fewer people, and our boys in harm's way are just in a lot more potential harm. Nothing's really been stopped. The question of finance reform on Wall Street, some new restrictions that made it more difficult for you to safely invest in Wall Street happened, but finance reform not really been addressed. In healthcare, I think I might have mentioned on yesterday's broadcast that the whole healthcare debacle has been nothing more but an obvious attempt for a government takeover of providing healthcare. No good has come of it yet, and we'll see if it ever does. You want to talk about concrete things? The only thing he's done is a major power grab to the executive branch. Of course, the less educated members of our society may be inclined to believe them. So we'll move on to a story about how the Obama administration is currently interested in the, quote, Allah is God curriculum. The controversial online curriculum that taught Allah is God and currently is used in 80% of Texas school districts has caught the attention of the Obama administration's Department of Education. A source in the Texas education system has told WND that Common Core operatives in the U.S. Department of Education are actively pursuing the CSCOPE, the C-scope, as a way around the Texas legislative process. Texas is one of the few states still resisting implementation of the Common Core. That's Obama's national standards incentive, which many feel is a transparent attempt to nationalize education and progressively control classroom content with minimal parental oversight. Imagine that. Implementation of Common Core is known to have been made a condition of school systems receiving federal dollars under Obama's Race to the Top program. C-scope recently has come under fire for evidence of what sources claim to be radical content and secrecy. Now, new information of such a radical agenda has surfaced showing that C-scope has connections to Obama's mentor and self-acknowledged terror group member, Bill Ayers. Ooh, feel like we should be playing the evil music right about then. Bum, bum, bum. I'll do a little sound. Also, WND has documented a strong link between Ayers and C-scope's heavyweight and Common Core advocate, Linda Darling Hammond, a unrepresented terror group member and known to be an Obama supporter, financier, and ghostwriter. William Bill Ayers was part of the notorious Weather Underground, which attempted to bomb the Pentagon in the 70s. After 9/11, Ayers was interviewed by the New York Times and was quoted as saying he had no regrets. Ayers gave Darling Hammond an enthusiastic endorsement for Education Secretary when Obama was first elected. Ayers has worked extensively with Darling Hammond on many of the same projects, even editing her work. Both are part of what some education experts have termed the small schools movement, which allegedly emphasizes emotional responses and output over factual mastery. Basically, what they're saying here is learn to control the emotion and the conscience of the children rather than teaching them facts and information. Make them feel a certain way. Basically, indoctrination through controlling content. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about two of the biggest names in unrepentant, homegrown terrorism. These are some of the worst that the left has to offer, or if you're part of the Rules for Radicals plan to take over the country and destroy the Constitution, the best they have to offer. At any rate, Darlene Hammonds is mentioned throughout C-Scope literature, has given innumerable lectures on behalf of C-Scope, and was part of Obama's educational transition team. She is a primary advocate and proponent of Common Core in Texas, and observers see the acquisition of C-Scope by the U.S. Department of Education as a logical next step. This scenario has alarmed those concerned about the classroom content accountability. Previously, it's been reported that C-Scope lessons promote Islam, teaching conversation methods and presenting verses from the Quran that denigrate other faiths. In the C-Scope curriculum, the Boston Tea Party is likened to an act of terrorism on par with 9/11. In the wake of the Newtown massacre, the Second Amendment is portrayed as a collective, not an individual right. Despite the Supreme Court's recent rulings to the contrary, the C-Scope website has posted a response to concerns about certain lesson plans, including an extensive discussion of the Boston Tea Party. Critics say that such lessons should never have appeared in the first place. Sources within the Texas education system recently have stated, thought by many to be akin to witchcraft, talking about Wicca. Wicca was being taught in C-Scope curriculum alongside Christianity, but was removed before the news media could access it, a fact that represents one of the biggest concerns for followers of C-Scope. C-Scope apparently immediately deletes controversial content once it's leaked, making it impossible at any one time to know exactly what students are learning and in what order. Defenders of this process say that this responsiveness to public scrutiny is a form of self-auditing. Others have said that it simply leaves parents, teachers, and those in charge of the curriculum oversight powerless to stop an agenda-driven lesson plan and the damage the ideas therein might do to the students. There have been several documented instances of lessons being deleted after their use in the classroom. When it's discovered that Islam was being given preferential status as part of the study on the world's major religions, C-Scope administrators deleted the lesson plan and all the associated PowerPoint in the presence of two separate sources, leaving no trace online. However, through available technology, documentation of the lesson plan and other such controversial content has been retained and reviewed by Texas educators. In C-Scope, World History and Social Studies, Lessons 2, Unit 3, under the heading Classical Rome, students were told that Christianity is a cult and given a link to the BBC article saying the early Christians were cannibals. Students were then led